I still remember the sound of old tractors echoing across Midwest fields before sunrise. Some machines worked hard for a few seasons, but a rare few stayed beside farm families for decades, and as this story unfolds, the tractors ahead only become tougher, heavier, and harder to forget. Oliver 1650. Built from the mid-1960s into the early 70s, the Oliver 1650 arrived during a time when many Midwest farms were growing fast, families needed more power, but they still wanted machines simple enough to repair in their own shop, and the Oliver fit that world perfectly. Under the hood sat a dependable 6-cylinder engine producing around 70 horsepower, not flashy for the era, not oversized either, just strong, usable power that felt smooth all day long. Farmers hooked these tractors to plows, forage wagons, balers, and cultivators without giving it a second thought. It was the kind of machine that started before sunrise and often shut down long after dark. Back then, a new Oliver 1650 usually sold for somewhere around $7,000 depending on options. For many families, that was serious money. Some farmers traded livestock to make the payments. Others delayed buying trucks or postponed repairs around the farm just to afford dependable horsepower. But once the tractor arrived home, few regretted the decision. One reason people still speak warmly about the 1650 was comfort. The ride felt balanced, the controls felt natural. After 10 hours in the field, a farmer climbed down tired from work, not exhausted from fighting the machine, and in the cold Midwest winters, that mattered more than brochures ever could. Even today, old Oliver tractors still appear at county fairs and working farms across America. Their paint may be faded now, their tires may carry decades of scars, but many still fire up with that same deep steady rumble farmers remember from childhood. And for families who believed durability mattered more than style, the tractor waiting ahead earned its reputation the hard way, one brutal season after another. Massey Ferguson 165. By the late 1960s, the Massey Ferguson 165 was already earning respect from dairy farmers, hay producers, and small family operations all across the Midwest. It was practical, easy to handle, easy to maintain, and somehow, it always seemed ready for another day of work. Its Perkins diesel engine became part of the legend. Around 58 horsepower may not sound massive today, but back then, it was exactly the kind of power many farmers needed, enough for baling hay under the hot July sun, enough for pulling wagons heavy with corn during harvest season, enough for long days mowing fence lines while dust drifted through the evening light. Cold mornings in the Midwest could humble almost any machine. Frost-covered barn roofs, wind-pushed snow against the shop doors, but many farmers still remember the steady confidence of turning the key on a Massey 165 and hearing that Perkins diesel come to life with a deep, familiar rattle. Back in its day, a new 165 often sold for roughly $5,000 to $6,000 depending on equipment. For a family farm, that was no casual purchase. It might represent years of saving, a good harvest season, or a difficult conversation around the kitchen table about debt and survival. But farmers believed in buying equipment that would stay with the family for decades, not just seasons. Even now, more than half a century later, many Massey Ferguson 165 tractors are still working small farms, feeding cattle, cutting hay, and carrying memories from one generation to the next. Sons learned to drive on them, grandfathers repaired them in old wooden barns lit by a single hanging bulb, and somewhere deep in that simple design, the tractor earned a kind of loyalty modern equipment rarely sees. But the machine ahead carried a little more weight, a little more power, and on hard-working farms, it became known as a tractor that simply refused to quit. Ford 5000. Introduced in the mid-1960s, the Ford 5000 quickly became one of the company's most respected tractors. Farmers appreciated machines that felt straightforward and honest, and the 5000 delivered exactly that. No unnecessary complexity, no fragile reputation, just dependable horsepower built for everyday work. With around 69 PTO horsepower from its rugged 4-cylinder diesel engine, this tractor handled jobs that smaller machines struggled to finish, pulling plows through heavy black Midwest soil, running balers during endless hay seasons, hauling grain wagons down gravel roads under skies filled with approaching rain clouds. The Ford 5000 earned trust because it kept showing up, season after season, without complaint, and for many farm families, trust mattered more than appearance. Back then, buying a new Ford 5000 could cost somewhere around $7,000 depending on tires, hydraulics, and options. That was a major investment during the 1960s. Some farmers studied dealership brochures for months before making the decision, others traded in older tractors that had served the family for years just to afford the upgrade. But when the work grew heavier and farms expanded, the 5000 felt worth every dollar. What farmers often remember most was its toughness. These tractors tolerated hard treatment better than most: long hours, poor weather, rough operators. Even after years of heavy use, many still started reliably on cold mornings with little more than a cloud of diesel smoke and the turn of a key. You still see them today sitting beside weathered barns across America, paint faded by decades of sun, tires cracked from gravel roads, yet somehow still working, still pulling, still carrying the same dependable spirit they had half a century ago. And while the Ford 5000 became known for stubborn reliability, the tractor waiting ahead brought even greater strength to the field. International Harvester 856. By the late 1960s, farms across the Midwest were changing fast, fields were getting bigger, implements were getting heavier, and when harvest season arrived, farmers needed tractors that could work long hours without breaking under pressure. That was the world the International Harvester 856 stepped into, and once it arrived, people remembered it. The first thing many farmers noticed was its presence: the bold red paint, the squared body lines, the heavy stance sitting high above the soil. Parked beside older tractors in the barnyard, the 856 looked like pure muscle waiting for work, but its reputation came from more than appearance. Under the hood was a powerful 6-cylinder engine producing around 95 horsepower. In its day, that kind of strength meant serious business. Farmers trusted the 856 with deep tillage, heavy field cultivators, loaded forage wagons, and long hours on large acre farms where downtime could ruin an entire season. And still, the tractor kept going. During fall harvest, these machines often worked after sunset beneath glowing yard lights while cold wind swept across open corn fields. You could hear the steady pull of the engine echoing through the night as wagons rolled toward grain bins before the weather changed. For many families, that sound became part of autumn itself. A new International 856 usually cost somewhere around $9,000 to $10,000 depending on equipment and configuration. That was not a small purchase in the late 1960s. For some farmers, it represented years of payments and real financial risk, but bigger farms demanded stronger equipment, and the 856 gave families confidence that the job would get finished no matter how rough conditions became. Even today, restored 856 tractors still draw crowds at county fairs and antique pulls across America. But one tractor stood above even this legend, a machine so dependable, so balanced, and so respected that many farmers still call it the greatest all-around tractor America ever built. John Deere 4020. Some tractors earned respect because they were powerful, others because they were affordable, but the John Deere 4020 became something far rarer. It became a tractor farmers trusted with nearly everything. When it appeared in the early 1960s, American farming was entering a new era. Farms were expanding, workloads were growing heavier, families needed machines strong enough for modern agriculture, yet reliable enough to survive endless seasons without draining the farm budget on repairs, and somehow, the 4020 answered all of it at once. Even today, many older farmers still speak about the tractor almost personally. They remember the sound of that 6-cylinder engine starting before daylight on cold fall mornings, the soft glow of the dash lights inside the cab, the steady rhythm of the machine pulling through dark soil while crows circled overhead in freshly turned fields. With around 95 horsepower, the John Deere 4020 handled nearly every task a Midwest farm could throw at it: plowing, planting, baling hay, hauling wagons heavy with corn during harvest. It was powerful enough for serious field work, yet smooth and manageable enough for everyday chores around the farmyard. Back then, a new 4020 often sold for around $10,000 depending on equipment and transmission choices. That was a tremendous investment during the 1960s. For many families, it represented years of careful saving and enormous faith in the future of the farm. That reliability built loyalty unlike almost anything else in American agriculture. Even now, decades later, John Deere 4020 tractors still work fields across the country. Some wear fresh restoration paint, others remain faded and scratched from a lifetime outdoors, but the heart of the machine still feels the same, because for countless American farmers, the 4020 was never just equipment. It was the tractor that showed up every morning, no matter what the season demanded. Maybe that is why these old tractors are still remembered today, not because they were perfect, but because they stayed loyal to the people who depended on them. Through dust, rain, broken harvests, and better seasons, these machines helped build the backbone of rural America, and for many families, the sound of those engines still feels like home.